friends. Hello, hello. Welcome to the 2025 Authortube Writers Conference. My name is Mel Power, and today we are going to talk about writing with a full-time job. This is a hard one for a lot of us. And before we get started, I've got a little housekeeping. First and foremost, I would love to introduce my moderators. If you've been around my channel, you already know them. Rachel Adams and Brandy Bullock. Thank you both so much. I really, really appreciate you. I would not be able to do this without you. Another thing I would like for you guys to do is if you put a Q before your question, it would really help me to pick them out of the chat. If I miss them, please just repost them. I would appreciate that as well. And I want to thank our sponsors, Later Press and WTC Creative, for making this possible. I see Shannon in the chat. Speaking of people who make this possible, thank you so much for doing this, Shannon. I can't even tell you. So we're going to dive in here. Anybody who's been to any of my workshops or classes or anything know that I am very off the cuff. Also if you have a question, just ask. We will have a Q&A at the end, but you don't necessarily have to wait for it, okay? Let's see. Yeah, you can also tag Brandy so that should make sure that I actually get them because my screen is overlapping here a little bit, so I don't necessarily see the chat while I'm presenting. So let's talk about finding your balance. And what does that mean? What does it mean to write with a full-time job? Because when I say a full-time job, I'm not necessarily talking about 9 to 5, working for somebody else, pulling a paycheck. Having a full-time job means you could be a full-time parent, or maybe you care for your elderly parents and work part-time as a barista, or maybe you are retired and life is just getting in the way because it seems like you've always got errands to run and things to do and friends to hang out with and littles to, take care of and that sort of thing. Pardon me. That is a full-time job. Life is a full-time job. So no matter what your situation, if you're finding that life is taking over and you're not finding the time to write, this is about finding your balance. So give me a show of hands in the chat. Who has a life like that? I know I do. It's difficult. It's difficult. And, we do a lot of courses and this and that and the other that talk about your ideal life, the I've already arrived, the future thinking, if you will, having a 3-year plan in place, a 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is a really big thing. I know some people who have a 10-year plan, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're talking about finding your balance and falling in love with the life you have right now. Making it work for you. Maybe you only have 1 day a week to yourself because of your family responsibilities and everything else. I'm going to show you how to work with what you've got and how to free up some time because we all have more time than we actually think that we do. I love Rachel's comment. I've been that way until the last 4 years, right? So first, let's talk about your why. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you going through the frustration, trying to carve out that little bit of time that's just for you so that you can get some words in? Never mind all the rest of the stuff that comes along with being an indie author, or even if you're traditionally published, there's still a lot. But you have to do so much other stuff besides writing when you're an indie author. So why are you doing it to yourself? We talk a lot about whys, that whole thing of, I want that life, that ideal life. I want that. I can taste it. I want it that bad. The big question I have for you is, do you have it down on paper where you can see it every day? Is it on a sticky note on your bathroom mirror? Maybe you took a dry erase marker and wrote it on your bathroom mirror. It is exceedingly important to know why you are doing this, because that's something that you can go back to when things get frustrating. But to me, knowing your, what I call your not why, is even more important. This is something that it's like having an in spite of list. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. If you are, give me a show of hands in the chat. That an in spite of list is you are going to do the thing because of these people told you you couldn't do it. So you're not why. Maybe, just maybe, you're not going to live paycheck to paycheck anymore. Maybe you're not going to crush your dreams because somebody else told you that you're foolish and you need to pull a regular paycheck and that the only way to earn money is to work for somebody else. Maybe that not why is because you are just so flipping sick and tired of living the way that you're living, right? That, to me, is as important, if not more important, than knowing your why, than knowing that ideal life. But again, get it down on paper. Put it somewhere where you're going to see it, whether it's part of your vision board or a sticky note, you know, get it down somewhere where you can see it. I want to be a full-time author because my high school guidance counselor told me it was a stupid idea. That's your not why. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I want to do something that fills me up. I'm tired of working for somebody else. I want to work for myself. Okay, so get that down on my in spite of list is so long. But get it down on paper. Writing it down makes it more real. Okay. Let's talk about working with what you have. Like I said before, we talk a lot about that ideal life. The one problem I have with that, not that I don't do it myself because I most certainly do, is that it seems so far away. It seems so far away. And after a while, it just becomes this nebulous thing, right? And that's when you start doing like the self-sabotage and, you know, just giving up on your dreams because that doesn't seem real anymore because it's just too far away. We need to work with what we have right here, right now. Okay. But the hardest part in all of this is being realistic. Let's talk about those of us who work outside of the home. Just as an example, when you get up in the morning, if you're anything like me, getting up at 5 a.m. and immediately starting to write for a couple of hours before you have to get ready to go to work, yeah, that's not happening. No shade if you can do that. All the power to you. I'm jealous. I wish I could. But most mornings are running around, oh my God, I forgot to pack my lunch, you know, and you're trying to get out the door. And then you come home from work and you're exhausted. Not just physically exhausted for a lot of us, but mentally exhausted. And you know that you have this little window of time, whether it's after supper or when the kids go to bed or, you know, at 10 p.m. when everyone else is in bed and you know you've got about an hour before your brain shuts off. Here's the problem with that. You can't flick a switch. You can't flick a switch and turn your creative brain on at 10:03 p.m. Most people can't. Okay, I know I'm speaking in absolutes here, but most people can't. You have to figure out how you're going to get from point work to point author. Okay. And that is looking at, I'm sorry, my throat is very dry. How much time do you actually have? Let's say you're lucky enough to be able to write when you get home from work. But when you get home from work, you've got to unwind. You've got to take that time, right? Some people are okay writing on their lunch break. I personally don't suggest that. And here's why. You're putting in an 8-hour day. You're probably going to need to decompress. Now, whether or not that's, you go for a walk during your lunch break and your head is in your story, right? I am not a fan of working during your lunch, because when you're at work, your job deserves you being fully present at work. When you're home, your family, your writing, whatever you've got going on at home deserves you being fully present there. By taking a really hard look at your habits when you're home is a really good way to free up time. So we talk about time sinks a lot. Things like doom scrolling. Okay. Grab a piece of paper and write down where your time sinks are. For me, it's Reddit. I can lose a whole hour, sometimes even 2, if I allow myself to go there. Another habit is, what are your regularly scheduled responsibilities? Okay. Like, do the kids have soccer practice on Saturday mornings? When do you get your groceries? Regularly scheduled habits. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, I just completely left my mind there. This morning, as I was pulling up everything on my computer to get ready, I came across an article where they talked about smartphone distraction, that having your phone easily accessible. Mine is sitting literally right here, but I have a flip phone. So when it's flip closed, it doesn't do anything. That just having your cell phone nearby, like within arm's reach, you lose, what is it, 30% of your cognitive retention. I'd call that a time sink, wouldn't you? I would absolutely call that a time sink. Who here, show of hands, who here always has their cell phone within arm's reach? I know I do. It's considered normal now. I know you have Renee, same way. I absolutely always have my phone within arm's reach. And it's hard not to just grab it and start doom scrolling or playing a game. My big thing is playing the game. I don't have my social media on my phone. And that is by design, because 30% of your cognitive retention, right? So how do we free up our time? Well, first and foremost, and this is hard, ask for help. Ask for help. There's people you can lean on. Family, hopefully. Friends, hopefully. Fellow writers, absolutely. There are communities everywhere on the internet for writers, for people who will be all, you have a question? Oh, I can answer that. I can help you. I can help you with that. You go into your favorite writing group and you post a question, within 20 minutes, you've got 20 answers. Absolutely. Family and friends might be a different story. Maybe you're not lucky enough to have a spouse or partner who believes in your dreams. Maybe you are. Maybe you are and you're not utilizing that. Maybe you have a friend, maybe your next door neighbor thinks it's the most fabulous thing in the world that you are writing a book. And yet you never ask them to help you write that book. Okay, you see where I'm going here? Are you asking people to help you get the book written? Okay. Maybe you can have your neighbor, maybe your neighbor picks up their groceries. I order my groceries online and I go pick them up. That's a real time saver for me. And I hate grocery shopping. But maybe my next door neighbor also does the same thing. Maybe you guys can take turns picking up the groceries. Errand sharing is a big thing. I have a neighbor down the hall, bless her little heart. She's like tiny little thing, uses a walker, loves if I ask her for help. I might even just say, next time you're running down to the mailroom, I have a package down there. Would you mind grabbing it for me? She thinks it's the greatest thing in the world because she's helping, right? Sometimes she just does it anyway and knocks on the door. Here's your package. For those of you who have kids at home, and right now kids are home. Oh, are they home? Maybe you hire a babysitter to come into your house for a couple of hours while you lock yourself in the bedroom or the office or the wherever, or you go out to the library, or you can be home and still hire a babysitter. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Hiring a babysitter does not mean that you have to be going out and doing something with your spouse or something like that. If you can afford to hire some help to take care of the kids, absolutely do it. Hire your teenage cousin to come take the littles to the playground across the street for an hour while you get some words in. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. But a lot of us don't even think about it, right? Because we have people-pleasing issues. We were talking about this in Scroll and Scribe earlier today about how we always put everybody else first, okay? And that is a huge no-no if you're going to get that book written. There is nothing selfish about putting your dreams first. So long as nobody's starving to death and going to school in dirty clothes, there's nothing wrong with you saying, I'm sorry, but you can't have my attention for the next hour. You need to go watch TV or read a book or do something and leave me alone. Leave me alone. There's a few people in the chat here who are very good at that. I'm looking at Jody Jean's comment here, having a setter come in so that you can do things when the baby was little. Why can't you do that now? Maybe you have a 7 or an 8-year-old that's home for the summer and you need to get some words in. So you hire a babysitter. You don't have to hire a babysitter to watch the kids so you can do the housework. Housework can wait. The housework can wait. But sometimes that never works. Sometimes none of that works. Like I said, you have a spouse that doesn't support you. Your kids just don't get it. You're an introvert and you don't really have any friends close to you. And sometimes you're an island. Sometimes you are. You just can't help that. There are several ways, that you can carve out time. Meal prep is a big one. The Rough Draft Challenge is starting next week. A lot of us here are Hardies. Rough Draft Challenge starts next week. I will be spending most of the day tomorrow doing meal prep. I will do snack trays. I will do a whole side of pulled pork. I will do chili, pot of chili. I will do things that I can put in the freezer so that meals are easier for myself and my mother. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I live with my widowed mom. She's in her 80s. She's still very capable, but I like to make things easier on her, right? And if I'm deciding that I'm having a heavy writing day, I would much rather just pull something out of the freezer that I can just then stick in a pot or stick in the microwave than have to cook a whole meal. So that's definitely a way. You take a couple of hours out of your week, will save you twice that during the week. Errand day is another thing. Maybe you're picking groceries up on your way home on Friday because you've had the weekend off And instead of battling the crowds on Saturday and driving yourself nuts and stressing yourself out, and then having to come home and, scrape yourself off the ceiling from that before you can get creative, maybe you're going to do that Friday night. Maybe Friday on the way home from work is your errand day. If you're lucky enough to have a Friday afternoon off, maybe that's when you're picking up your prescriptions, when you're going to Costco, when you're doing these big shops. Planning ahead for stuff like this is going to save you buku time in the long run. With that comes the need to save your sanity. Because let's be honest, a lot of us female presenting people, it falls on our shoulders to do all of this stuff. Okay. Still, unfortunately, in this day and age, not all of us are lucky enough to have a spouse, period. Not all of us are lucky enough to have a spouse that shares the responsibility of keeping and running the household. However, you need to take time for you. You need to make sure that you are doing your self-care, that you are filling your well, because you cannot be creative unless you take care of yourself. And whether that means you hole yourself up and take a bubble bath, or you go to the spa, or you're like me and once a month you go and you get your nails done and you're there for 2 hours and that's your self-care. Or you're leaning into your community. Maybe if you have small children, you're with other moms, or your online writing community. Finding these places to go and these things to do to save your sanity is going to save you time. Yes, you have to spend the time, but it's going to save you more time, because the more your well is full, the more that you are on an even keel, the easier it's going to be to get into that creative mindset. If it takes you, like I said, if you come home from work and you're trying to immediately start writing, but you haven't taken the time to decompress, you're going to be staring at that blinking cursor. Do the things that you need to do to fill your well, to save your sanity, so that you can more quickly get into that headspace. Okay. Along with that comes mind management. Again, we're talking about mindset now, right? So one big thing is rituals. When I was working 40 plus hours a week at a demanding job, taking care of mom, other family responsibilities, and I still managed to publish 21 times in 24 months. One of the biggest things was because of the ritual that I had. I worked from home, so I finished up my workday. I gathered up all of my work materials and they went up on a shelf next to my desk. I even had a specific type of pen that I used for work days. And then I had a specific type of pen I used for my writing. I would change my soundtrack. I would even change the scent of my candle, because I'm a burn a candle all day, every day kind of person. And then, okay, my washi tape, and okay, my writing stuff, and okay, my index cards. And that was my brain's trigger. Okay, that was how I don't like to say it flipped a switch, because it didn't. But the more I used that ritual, the quicker I was able to get myself into I work for somebody else mindset into the I'm working for myself mindset. Okay. Sometimes I would have to do a brain dump to get myself into that mindset. I always had a notebook that I would sit down and I would just take a couple of lines and journal what I'm working on. Okay. What am I working on today? That is also part of the ritual. Super, super easy to do. Got me in that mindset. And then I keep what I call a later journal, or used to. I don't do it anymore because I'm lucky enough to be doing this full time. But the later journal was a small notebook that I kept out of arm's reach on my desk. If I had an invasive thought about work, I thought about something that I promised somebody outside, my cousin, I was going to do for them next week, I would grab that notebook, I would write it down, slam it shut, put it out of arm's reach. The act of slamming it shut tells my brain, it's in here, it's over, it's done. Okay. That's how you deal with those intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts can pull us out of our writing so flipping easy. Who here, show of hands, who here has that happen? You're just getting in, and you think you're about to hit that flow, and all of a sudden, you remember, oh my God, it's my nephew's birthday next week, and I didn't get him a card. And it's like record scratch, right? That's what the later journal is for. Okay, I know, here's the thought. I acknowledge the thought. I write it down so that it can be taken care of later. Okay. The biggest thing is to not try to stop these things from happening, because then you're just going to get frustrated. It's the, okay, I'm having this thought. It's interrupting my work, my writing. It's interrupting my business, my time. I'm going to write it down. I will deal with it later. The later journal is like one of the best tools that I've ever come up with. Part of managing your mind is managing your feelings. We talk about boundaries a lot as well in Scroll and Scribe. As a matter of fact, the theme for June in Scroll and Scribe was boundaries and how flipping hard it is to set them. Negative feelings around your boundaries are going to pull you out of your flow. And I'm not just talking about the guilt of actually setting a boundary. I'm talking about what happens when people don't abide by your boundaries. You tell the kids, I'm sorry, you can't have me for the next hour. Here's a movie, go watch it. 15 minutes later, you're getting, I'm hungry. From a 12-year-old who's more than capable of going to the refrigerator themselves and pulling out an apple, right? What does that do? That gives you massive frustration. And then there goes all your good thoughts. There goes all of your flow. There goes all of your characters are sitting there in the back of your head going, oh God, here we go again. And you've pulled yourself out. Keeping the later journal is also really good for those negative feelings as well. If the kid did not respect your boundaries, you can write it in the later journal because you're going to talk to them about it later. Okay? Look, there's never been a better reason, like we need one, to get yourself a journal, brand new journal that's never been written in before. Hello. I love a new journal. Everybody loves a new journal. But keeping a later journal on your desk, give it a try. And I would love to hear back from you how it's working for you, okay? Let's talk about the thing no one wants to talk about. Getting our butts up from our desk. Getting our butts up from our desk and getting some movement. Take this weekend, for example. The Authortube Writers Conference has been going on since yesterday. How many of you, again, show of hands, I'm going to flick my screen so I can see how many of you guys admit to this. I'll give a short rundown on Scroll and Scribe when I'm done with the presentation. Thank you for reminding me, Brandy. Show of hands, okay? How many of you have been sitting here watching presentations and not getting up on a regular basis? How many of you? How many of you at the end of your day get up from your desk and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've been hit by a truck because you haven't gotten up and moved? I'm not talking about exercise here. I'm talking about movement. Okay, some of us, myself included, I can't have a regular exercise routine because I'm disabled. Okay, so let's be honest about it. But at the same time, I often avoid getting my butt up out of the chair. Half of it because I know it's going to hurt. The other half is because I'm too busy doing what I'm doing. Don't want to interrupt my flow. That's when you have to decide which is more important. Okay, and not only you can answer that question. But it is so important because when we're in pain, it pulls us out of our flow. When we're sitting here eating junk food all day, it's going to make us feel sick. It's going to pull us out of our flow. Okay. But I mean, I'm not saying don't eat the chips, because eat the chips, right? But also have an apple. Exercise is hard and not possible for some people. Only you know your own body. But do not excuse yourself from not getting up and moving and stretching as your mobility allows and doing the things that you know you have to do to take care of yourself. Again, taking the time to do that is going to pay you back in hours down the road. Okay, this is all about banking those hours and that mental clarity to get the writing done. Let's talk about my favorite topic, marking your territory. Because who doesn't love organizing your space, finding the right pen, that journal with the perfect cover, oh my God. It's like the most fun thing about being an author, except for maybe your stories. But what if you don't have a permanent space? I mean, if you have a permanent space, fabulous. Look at this. I work out of my bedroom. Is this a permanent space? Absolutely. Do I have everything I need in here? No, because it's my bedroom. Okay. I work out of my bedroom as opposed to the office that my mother works in, because this is the office doesn't have a window. So I like my sunshine. But how do you carve out that space? Let's say, for the sake of argument, the only place that you really have to write is the dining room table. Okay. Again, ritual. Make it yours. Maybe this is how you get the kids involved. Help mommy clean up so she can write her book. Help mommy get all the dishes off the table and wipe the table down and help me. Kids love to help. Well, at least until they become teenagers. Little kids love to help. Find yourself a little kid. Borrow one if you have to. But using some kind of a ritual to make that space your own. Super important. So important. So you get yourself your little collection. And I'm not just talking about, your index cards and your laptop and these tools. I'm talking about the things you love. The things you love. Like this little guy that sits next to my computer. This was a gift from a friend. Angela gave me this. Our darling Angela Hester. It lives on top of my microphone. These are the things that make me happy. Again, mindset. It helps me get into flow. I look at those things, they make me smile. I have a little crazy looking donkey on here that I've had it since I was in my 20s. Picked it up on a road trip with a friend. Makes me happy. Makes me feel at home. Makes me ready to write. If you need to, put together a pencil case with all of your pens and your washi tape and whatever else you need. Heck, I don't need to tell you guys how to do that. You're writers. You're already doing it probably. But just make sure that you have all of these things at the ready so that when the kids are done helping you clear off the table, you can get them set up with a movie, and then you've got 2.5 hours, 3 if it's a Marvel movie, to write. Or maybe, your spouse is going to, or your partner is going to take the kids out somewhere for an hour or 2. Make sure that you've got everything you need to go. Let me tell you, those nurses' bags, you can put so much stuff in there. You can get them on Amazon. They're not expensive. If you have to move around the house, like maybe the kids are doing homework and the only place for you to write is the corner of the couch, right? In the living room, because everybody else is in the dining room doing homework. If you've got everything in one contained place, all you need to do is pick that up and you're golden. Okay? But it is so worth it. It's a lot of work just to get ourselves to the point where we can write, where we're ready to write, where we have the bandwidth and the space, and everybody's leaving us alone. That's the hardest part. Everybody leaving us alone. But understand this, and this is where the tough love comes out of me. Stop blaming other people for you not getting the book done. Oh, but my kids won't leave me alone. Then leave the house. I know not everybody has this, and this is I'm probably going to tick a couple of people off here, but you know what? It is up to you. It is up to you to write that book. Nobody's going to do it for you. It is up to you to find the space, the bandwidth, the boundaries to get it done. One thing that we talked about in Scroll and Scribe this month was meeting people halfway on those boundaries. So if the boundary doesn't work for somebody in your house, then maybe it needs to be revisited. I'm sorry, but 2 whole hours isn't going to work. I can't keep the kids under control for 2 whole hours. Okay, well, let's say an hour for sure, and then I get to keep going if the kids are behaving, right? That's meeting in the middle. That's also going to get them on board with you if it doesn't feel like an ultimatum. Okay, not all of you guys are as lucky as I am, where I don't have anybody to answer to. My kid is grown. I don't have a spouse. I have a roommate, right? But it is up to you. Put your foot down, especially with the kids. You're the parent. Put your foot down. No, you cannot interrupt me. There are going to be consequences if you interrupt me. If you interrupt me, you lose your screen time. They're going to survive for an hour. Put your phone away. Put your phone away. Turn it off. It doesn't matter. The only thing people should be interrupting you for is if someone is dying. And if you turn your phone off and someone's dying, they're going to find a way to get a hold of you, probably through your spouse or your neighbor, or somebody's going to come knock on your door. You're allowed to turn your phone off. Heck, leave it in another room, okay? Because you deserve this. You deserve to get that book written. You deserve it. If you are having problems putting these boundaries in place, asking for help, your mental health is just shot, lean on your community. Lean into your writing community, because somebody has been there. You are not alone. Someone has gone through exactly what you're going through. I can guarantee it. Exactly what you're going through. Reach out. That's what the communities are there for. It's what we're here for, right? We're all here to support each other because we can't do it without each other. I appreciate that, Brandy. Thank you so, so much. I don't know if I missed any questions, but I want you guys to realize, before we get into the Q&A here, I want you guys to realize you deserve this. You are absolutely worthy of seeing your name in print, of holding that book in your hands. You are absolutely worthy of that. If anybody tells you different, tell them to go pound sand. If it's a friend or a family member that's telling you that, maybe it's time to reevaluate your relationship. Because the people who matter are the ones who are going to lift you up and support you. Lean into your community. That is what we're here for. And if anybody has any questions or needs any clarification, guidance, anything on any of this, please, please, please email me. Okay? Best way to get a hold of me, powerplaypress@gmail.com. Some of you have me on Facebook. You can hit me up there. Please. Absolutely. Before we get into the Q&A, somebody had asked about Scroll. What is Scroll and Scribe? So Brandy has just posted, I'm going to just get rid of this. Brandy has posted the link to the website. Scroll and Scribe Accelerator is a indie author led support group accelerator for the business side of your business. We don't deal with how do I fix this plot hole. We deal with how do I fix the fact that I can't seem to motivate myself. We deal with the business side of your business, okay? And one of the coolest things, in my opinion, about Scroll and Scribe is that I have a group of pre-vetted and exceedingly awesome service providers for indie authors. As a matter of fact, one of them is WTC Creatives. I have editors. I have digital artists. I do one-on-one coaching with people. When you join Scroll and Scribe, you get exclusive discounts from all of us. Okay. So let's jump into the Q&A because I want you guys to have some time to get up and move around a little bit before. Look at me making all of the mistakes on the ticker. This is me not caring. Okay, I see. We've got some. Yes, Rach, could you drop the link? Well, it's also in the down in the description, I think, is it not? But Rach went ahead and yes, let me tell you something. You need a website, you need James. Just saying. He's amazing. So Kay is asking here, what would you suggest for someone who wants to set hard boundaries but has trouble sticking to them? Do it in stages. Baby steps. Baby steps. So maybe it's my boundary is I want 2 hours of uninterrupted time. My family's not allowed to interrupt me. Maybe you start with 30 minutes. Maybe you start with leaving the house and then coming back. Baby steps is the most important thing. And a lot of us have a hard time sticking to boundaries. Absolutely. But if you crash and burn, so what? Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try again. You've only failed if you've stopped trying, right? Boundaries with yourself. Oh, that's a whole nother ball of wax. It's harder than setting boundaries with other people. It really, really is. I find for myself, the reward system works really well. The reward system, if I get my word count this week, I get to spend Sunday on my fun project. If I stay off of Facebook for the next 2 hours and get some words in, I get chocolate, right? It's so hard. It's so hard to set them with ourselves. Again, if you crash and burn, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you give it another try. That's it. Pink drink. I'm big on the Starbucks pink drink. It's one of my favorite things to reward myself with. Okay, let's see what we've got going on here. There is the playlist, the entire playlist, okay? And there is Becca's talk. It's also pinned to the top of the chat here for you guys. Yes, Brandy leaving the house. For you guys to hop over. But I do want you to get up, move around, get something to drink, get a snack. Authortube Writers Conference, Speaker Awards voting. I apologize, you guys. It's been a really busy day and it's late here, so I'm starting to fizzle out. Does anybody have any more questions? I would love to see some of you come in to scroll and scribe. I would love it. But like I said, if you have any questions, need any clarification, powerplaypress@gmail.com. And I apologize to those of you who had already downloaded the workbook and then I took off the link, because somewhere between Canva and Bitly, it ate half of the workbook. So I do apologize. There was no workbook because I usually always have a workbook. But yeah, let me know if you've got any questions. You guys deserve this. You deserve to succeed. We're all going to rock this out. You can do this even when you're working 40 hours a week. Just be realistic. Be realistic with the time you have. Make sure you're giving yourself enough time to decompress, find some self-care, have some fun, pet your cat, play with the kids. All right? Listen, I love you guys. Love you guys to bits. Thank you so much for being here and listening to me ramble for the last 47 minutes. Like and subscribe. I would love that. And I do sprints every Saturday and Sunday, except for this Sunday. It's my day off. Every Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. I will see you guys. Get up, move around. Love you to bits.